Good evening, y'all. Welcome to our Thursday night book club. Tiffany Wilson here, Diamond Ambassador. We're going to talk tonight about chapters 17 and 18 of Atomic Habits. All right. So, chapter 17, he talks about how an accountability partner can change everything. And this chapter starts out with Clear talking about the fourth law. And he says that just as we're more likely to repeat an experience when the ending is satisfying, we're also more likely to avoid it when the ending is painful. All right. So it's important to make the habit immediately unsatisfying, he says. An example of that he gives is being productive and the cost of procrastination being greater than the cost of action, or to be healthy, the cost of laziness being greater than the cost of exercise. So specifically something like, he talked about negative reviews on bad food, making workers in the restaurants want to do a good job because they don't want those reviews, or a surgeon wanting to make sure he does a good job because he doesn't want to be cutting a wrong blood vessel. And he goes into this chapter talking about habit contract, right? And he says that in 1984, when the seatbelt law was passed, only 14% of people wore a seatbelt. So if y'all ever heard like your mom or your grandma say, back then we never wore our seatbelt. And I remember climbing all over the seat as a child, but then look at what happened in 5 years from that. Half the nation had seatbelt laws, okay? And today it's even enforceable by law. So in 2016, over 88% of Americans then were buckled up. All right. And these laws and regulations basically show how a government changed our habits by creating that social contract, right? We agreed, they enforced them. So if you're thinking, smoking in restaurants, he talks about recycling. I immediately thought about masks. Look what happened in 2 years with masks. So he goes on to say that a habit contract is a verbal or written agreement where you state your commitment to a particular habit and the punishment that occurs if you don't follow through. Then you find one or two people for your accountability partner and you sign off on that contract, right? He says that signing the contract is the biggest deal because it adds a social cost to that behavior, and we are social beings. And he says that make those habits painful, which begins to create unsatisfactory results with those habits. So I thought, back, one of the reasons we started IPA back in 2015 was that if you didn't do the work and say that you were done, you got booted. And it was painful to get booted from the IPA chat because regardless of the excuses that you said to yourself, you had still failed to stay done. And so you were being held accountable in front of others. And then knowing that someone else is still watching, he says that can be a powerful motivator, which then creates cost to inaction because we care about what others think of us and we don't want others to have that lesser opinion. So that was chapter 17, talking about habit contract and accountability partners. And then moving on to chapter 18 is the truth about talent, where genes matter and when they don't. And so he opened up this chapter talking about Michael Phelps and the Moroccan runner. And he says that our environment determines the suitability of our genes and the utility of our natural talents. So when environment changes, so do the qualities that determine success, which is true for both physical and mental characteristics. So therefore, he says that competence is highly dependent on context. So you are genetically predisposed to success in areas where habits are satisfying, right? Your genes, how your personality influences your habit, your genes are operating beneath the surface of every habit and behavior, right? Genes influence the hours you watch TV, the likelihood of marriage or divorce, as well as, drug and alcohol abuse, or even how you respond to authority, act in stressful times in your life, or how bored or proactive you tend to be. And he says that you don't have to apologize or feel guilty for these differences, but you do have to work with them, right? We want to build habits that work for our personality, but you don't have to build habits that everyone tells you to build, but you want to build good, successful habits, okay? So going into finding the game where the odds are in your favor, he goes back to law 3, make it easy. So when people pick the wrong habit, it simply means that they picked a habit that was too difficult. So if you have an easier habit, you have success. If you have success, you have satisfaction, right? And I think that, you know, we're all in this business because we want to help our families. We enjoy helping others. We enjoy making a difference. We love community. We enjoy the products, the business side that direct sales has to offer. And so, you know, I think that's a great example with our work and our personal growth. And he goes into saying, you know, ask yourself these questions. And so I kind of took those questions as, you know, he says, what feels like fun to me but work to others? So maybe you're a great communicator and you love getting on the phone, or maybe it's not your strength and you're recognizing that as a place for growth. What makes me lose track of time? You know, asking yourself, does a clean desk and music make me ready to knock out IPA? Or, you know, do I get lost scrolling in social media? Where do I get greater returns than the average person? So am I a stronger recruiter than someone else? Or is this a place of potential growth? Or maybe I'm passionate about personal growth and training, whereas somebody else might need more growth in this area. And then his fourth question, he says, is what comes naturally to me? And this is where, you know, you work in your strength zone and you continue to build on those weaknesses out of your, you know, your comfort level. That's where you begin to believe in yourself. You begin to feel motivated, and it's based on the expectations of others. So I kept thinking through these 2 chapters that the Strengths Finder book is a really good tool to use as well to find what your personal strengths and weaknesses is. You buy the book, there's a code, you can take a test. It's awesome. So moving on, I love, love, love where he shares that we all have limited time on this planet, and the truly great among us who not only work hard, but also have good fortune to be exposed to opportunities that favor us, right? So I believe that each of us on this call tonight has been exposed to this opportunity that favors us, y'all. And I believe that we are meant to cultivate that within ourselves and grow, right? You're set here for a purpose, but it's up to us to determine the level of success within ourselves. And so he says, you know, if you don't want to leave it up to luck, which we don't, you create the odds in your favor, right? So he says you can shortcut your genetics by rewriting the roles. A good player works hard to win the game everyone else is playing, but a great player is going to create a new game that favors their strengths and avoids their weaknesses, right? So our genes don't eliminate the hard work. They're going to tell us what to work hard on. So your genes are not an excuse, right? It's more productive to focus on whether you're fulfilling your own potential than comparing yourself to someone else. And I think too many people get caught up in the fact that they have the limits, that they rarely exert the effort required to get close to them and their goals. They use this as an excuse to keep them held back and stuck. So closing this out here, I just love what he shares, that genes can't make you successful if you're not doing the work, okay? So until you work as hard as those you admire, don't explain away their success as luck, okay? It's like the picture with the mountain on top of the water and all you see is the success above the top. And you're not seeing underneath all the trials that they went through and the hard work that they put in, that it took them to be successful. The genes that they overcame, the things that they overcame to become successful. You know, it wasn't just luck. So, all right, it's almost 9:15. I want to go into, I have some questions to ask y'all. Look forward to kind of digging deep and hearing what y'all think. So, question number 1 is, what is your habit contract and what daily habits would get you to your goal? And what is that punishment if you fail? All right, opening it up.
I don't know if it's like, it's not self-induced, but I think our business has a lot of these built in. You gotta follow up and do retention or people leave, and that sucks. That doesn't feel good. You put in all this effort, you educated them, you got them excited, and then if you didn't do the other steps, then that feels crappy. And then that actually, it'll like feed itself. I feel like it makes you feel bad, which is less motivating to go work. And that's exactly what you need to do. So it's way more rewarding to just go ahead and do it proactively and not feel bad. And then if, and of course, people are going to quit sometimes, but you can not feel bad about it. You can know what I did, what I was supposed to do, and I can feel good about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you're going to have those 1 or 2 people at least, you know, in your corner that are going to be there to, you know, coach and mentor you and say, hey, what happened? Where did we fall? Let's pick up and go forward. So, yep, love that related to our business. Anybody else?
I don't have a habit contract yet, but this definitely has me thinking about what areas I could have a habit contract, because most of us are people who need accountability. Most of us are not just completely self-driven. Almost everybody, the majority of people need accountability. Okay. And that's what makes it hard to do what we do, because we're our own boss. And so I have gone out of my way to create accountability for myself. You know, you can ask your upline to hold you accountable, and you guys can come up with an accountability plan. Like, hey, I'm going to send you a picture of my IPA sheet every day. I'm going to get it done, even if I have to send you the picture at midnight. And if I don't do that, then this is what I'm going to do. I'm not sure what the punishment could be. If you guys have any ideas, throw that in there. I'm open to suggestions. Yeah, like, I don't know, like I gotta get, like the punishment would be like the guy in the book, like he had to get ready every day. I was like, shoot, I could get ready and do my hair and makeup every day. It would kind of be a punishment, but it would also kind of be good. Like, I don't want to, but I will if I do, you know what I mean? So I don't know, something to think about.
Maybe something crazy like 100 push-ups or something.
That's not bad.
You're getting real strength there, but that's tough.
100 push-ups would be tough.
That's tough. Maybe you would do 50.
How about 5 pull-ups?
That's hard too. 5. So I struggle with my pull-ups.
Yeah. Who doesn't? 100 to 5. All right. Okay. We're talking comparison of push-ups to pull-ups. Okay.
Be thankful she said pull-ups. All right.
I'm going to pop in because Tova, I was actually thinking this and she wrote it, but what I've been doing since the beginning of August, because I got back kind of back into a routine from moving and stuff, but I'm really wanting to hit Emerald. Like, I want to rank up. And so I have been holding myself accountable by literally telling myself, like, when I feel like I don't want to do something, because I still have boxes and other things that need to be done or could be done. I literally tell myself, okay, like, do I want to unpack that box, or do I want to get closer to Emerald? Like, I have been telling myself this every single day. And before I go to bed, like, I do not let myself go to bed. If it's my working days, like, I've actually set days out of this month. I set it at the beginning of the month. These days I'm doing my IPA. This is when I'm showing up. And if it's that day, I do not go to sleep until my IPA is done. And if I start to get tempted, well, I could just do double tomorrow, I literally tell myself, no, I said I'm going to do this. Do I want to be Emerald or not? And so then I hold myself accountable. And it has been kind of my, I guess it's not like a punishment, like nobody's here telling me whatever, but it's like holding myself accountable. And it's been really good. So I don't know, reading that Tova put it, I'm like, I guess, yeah, because I started to say it and I was like, well, no, because it's not really a punishment, but that's what I've been saying this month.
Mhm.
So in my business, it was always really easy, and it comes in waves. It's always different. Right now, this is hard, but it was always easy for me to do the personal growth, do the reading, do those things I really needed to. But it was hard for me to post on social media and to show up with the posting. So I wouldn't let myself do what was easy until I did what was hard. So kind of getting the hard stuff out of the way first, and then I could do the rest of my work. So that was always the first thing I would do, get it out of the way. And even now, like, I won't let myself clean the house until I've got my work done, because it's easy to put it off. So just not letting yourself do something else until you get your work done. It really does work. The accountability partner thing, I haven't ever really tried that though. I don't know that that would work for me or not. Maybe it would if I'd actually do it, but I just can never imagine doing that. I don't know why.
I've been trying to keep mine more of like a mental type thing. So I have my habit app and I've been checking it off. There's certain things that I had on there. I had like 4 different categories. And it was like gym and work and then walking and then drinking water, whatever I had. And then I thought, okay, well, work could just mean anything. So to hit on my pain points, I started breaking up my work habit into the 4 pillars. So I had to complete each one, or my circle at the end of the day was not complete. And it drove me insane if that circle wasn't complete or my bar graph wasn't complete. So it has forced me out of that comfort zone, or else before I went to bed, my circle was not complete and I had to fix it. So that was just something that breaking it down into categories, because I'd be like, yeah, I went to work today, and I just click it and I'm like, maybe I didn't hit all the areas. So I broke it down and it was painful because I'm like, this is going to be a lot more work, but it holds me accountable to click and make sure I hit every pillar. So that's just one tip that I've been doing.
Yep, that's good. And I think any way that we can, hold ourselves accountable is good. Will you share what app that is too then, Sabrina? All right.
Yeah, it's just called Habit. I'll share a picture of it with everybody. So I could even do it in the chat and then we can share it to whoever.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, girl.
So something I started doing when I got serious about my business, Fallon would always yell at me, like, stop doing all these projects during the week, stuff like that. So in order to train myself to not let those things take over, because sometimes it's endless, like even cleaning, it's endless. Like Fallon said, like she won't let herself clean her house till her work's done, because honestly, you could do it all day. So what I started doing is if I didn't get my IPA done that week, like every single day, like I didn't get to do whatever project I was planning on the weekend. So like whatever hobby I had, whatever it was, I just didn't get to do it. Like I had to do my work instead. And so that's what I did in the past, and I actually got away from it a little bit. So I'm going to start doing that again. Because this is a good reminder, because things like that, like, it is rewarding, but it's more rewarding if you do all your work first and get those things done, and you can really fully enjoy it without having that mental pressure of like, oh my gosh, I didn't get this stuff done and I should be doing that instead. So.
Yeah, that's definitely good. I think gosh, I could think of so many things we could do to really hold ourselves accountable. And I think, I think without thinking, I think most of us have that 1 or 2 accountability partners, whether it's your spouse or your power partner or whoever that is, they might even be reminded of stuff that we don't even really realize as a habit contract daily. So yes, I loved all those. Okay, let's move on to the second question. he talks a lot about genes and genetics. Do you think that your unique cluster of genetic traits predispose you to a personality? He talks about those on page 220 and 221. So is there anything that you notice?
I'm not so sure on that. Like, I was a little distracted late reading these chapters.
I know.
So I was trying to get them done with my kids, like going to bed. But what I did think of it like during it is my parents' habits. Like, honestly, like a lot of that like came more to mind more than it being engraved in us. But I feel like that is part of that. Like my mom, I swear, like I'm sure everyone on here can be like, I sound like my mom, you know, like my mom, the stuff she'll say, if you're leaving a room and you're going upstairs anyways, take this with you. And that's how I am. And like, I don't even think about it. I just do it. So that's my thought on that.
Except nobody else in the house does it.
Yeah, just, we won't talk about that. My kids will do it by the time they're 20, maybe.
Exactly. I'm like, did nobody see the 500 things at the bottom of the steps that you could have helped me carry? Like, if it's on the steps, it needs to go upstairs, y'all. Like, get it up there. Oh. So some of the things he said, you know, he talks about, you know, openness to experience, neuroticism, agreeables, and he gives some good examples in there. And I found that actually, I looked it up a little more and I went over to just Wikipedia and I noticed that there's, if you get a chance, just look up like personality habits over there, the 5, and it gives you like some really, really great examples to kind of think further on. I'll see if I can get this link while someone else shares too.
So, Courtney, I have to laugh at that and anybody else who agreed with that because my husband's the same way. Like, why is it that I can carry 20 things down the stairs and I'm fine, but he can't do it? But aside from that, and this is something like my brother and I have had so many conversations about it lately. Like, my parents, they are the kind of people like, don't put off what you can do today to tomorrow. Get it done now. That way you don't have to worry about it. And it's interesting because like my brother and I both were like, we didn't think we were like that growing up, but now that we're married and our spouses are not, we're like, what's wrong with them? Like, why don't they want to get things done instead of like pushing it off to the next day? And so like, even for me in some ways, like I was raised that like you need to take care of your house first, right? But truthfully for me, I'd rather get all my IPA stuff done in the morning or as early as possible and then go to that, because for me, like trying to get my IPA done in the afternoon, in the evening, it just doesn't work. So I would say that's definitely like a genetic disposition that I have, and it's just been interesting having those conversations like lately with my brother because he'll say the same thing and I'm like, okay, good, so I am not losing it. Like, this is just like some kind of family trait that we have. So that's what I had to share.
I've actually,
Oh, sorry, Fallon.
go ahead.
Well, no,
Go
I was
ahead.
just going to add on to that. Like, even with, you know, parents, I think that obviously plays a huge role in how we are. And I mean, it sounds like all your parents are the same way. Like, my parents are exact opposites. So like, I landed right in the middle. Where like my mother is like extreme perfectionist, very controlling, wants everything a certain way. And my dad is like the chillest man on the planet. He can sit on a hammock all day, you know? And so I feel like I've just kind of inherited a little bit of both of that, where I love to chill and I'm still, you know, I still want to get things done. So, but I feel like the book has also talked about like your environment is so important. And so I think, you know, yes, genes, you know, can play a role in that, but to me, it's like, how were you raised and what environment were you raised in? And that's going to really either set you up for success or just make it harder to get there. Honestly, it doesn't mean you can't be there. Your parents were not, super strict or raised you in a very structured way. It doesn't mean you still can't be successful. It just means it might be a little harder to get there because you didn't have that environment pushing you to be that way, but yeah, I believe that like your environment is going to definitely affect how your habits are as adults. You live your whole life with your parents, your family, and so yeah, environment.
Yeah.
For sure. Oh, I'm sorry. Tiffany was that?
No, go ahead,
I
girl.
was gonna say, I feel like we end up a certain way for a variety of reasons, genes and environment, but I don't like it when people use it as an excuse, like that's just the way I am kind of thing. And my husband and I are living proof that it can change. And Natalie's watched this change to me over the past 6 years. I was so neurotic and perfectionist and not a lot of fun sometimes. And Brad over the past 20 years has slowly pulled me, 21 years, to be more chill. And he was way too chill and way too hammock-esque, and I've pulled him over. So we can, and I feel like we've really picked up better traits from each other and balanced each other out. So you can change. And then what you said about environment, I mean, it's like an alcoholic. We know your genes are predisposed, so you probably shouldn't hang out in bars and with people who drink a lot. Like that's not setting yourself up for success. So if you're super distractible, you should probably not work in a room with a TV on and a lot of people around and stuff on your desk. Like what are your, in essence, trigger things? Like how can you set yourself up for success? And I want to say that I've learned that changes, like things that used to not distract me in my business 4 or 5 years ago are now. And like being okay. Previously I did not like change. I'm very comfortable with change now. But being okay with like, okay, well, the way I used to do things isn't working great for me right now. Like, that's okay. I'm going to find a new way. And in a few years, I might have to do a new way. Like being okay with that. I am becoming okay with that.
I was going to say what Tova said, because it's super important to not let things like that become an excuse. So I have been doing a lot of studying on genes and genetic DNA, which is legit, but it also can change, and it does change based on who you are around. Your actual DNA will change. Even the gene mutation, MTHFR, do not have to have that. Like your body does not have to have that. It can change. And I was telling Courtney about some of my genetic dispositions. I'm in the 99th percentile for anxiety. And I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds about right. And she's like, is it helpful to know that? And I had to think about it. Or does it become an excuse basically? And I think if you are like, yeah, that, I just have anxiety, you can let it become an excuse for everything. Or you can use that as a tool to be like, okay, a normal person would not have anxiety eating at a restaurant. This is my issue. I need to get over it. Or a normal person should be able to say hi and go meet friends without having fear that their kids are going to catch something. I can work through this. So I think knowing what your ADD, whatever it is, alcoholism, all of these things, knowing what you're predisposed to and what your genes are saying right now can help you to move past that and work through it, as long as you don't let that become your crutch. Yeah, it's super interesting. Definitely interesting stuff.
And that made me think, I was just reading, I think I had shared that with you the one day, but I was reading something the other night that was like 92, like they talk about cancer and genetics. And I was reading some stuff and it's like only 8% of cancers are actually genetic. It's literally like all environment and lifestyle. And I was like, that's so fascinating if you really dig in deep and see that. And maybe that's where I read it. Yeah, I don't know, but I was just reading that and it was in a book too. But and I definitely agree with keeping areas tidy. I've got school supplies all over and it's driving me nuts. Not so bad for my kids, but I'm like, should I just throw it all onto the floor for the call? So there you go, my genetics. So I guess we have another minute here, but I was gonna ask about achieving or overcoming something in your genes that you recognize may have helped or hindered you, but I think we all kind of talked about that. So I just kind of wanted to see, like, you know, maybe can anyone identify a time when you had to realign your habits with your natural abilities, right? He talked a lot about natural abilities. So can you think of a time when you had to realign those habits with natural abilities to help you?
So recently for me, I had to tell myself that I am better at talking to people in person and on the phone. So I would way overthink sending text messages and messaging people through Facebook. And so I've just started sending a lot more voice messages and actually picking up the phone and talking to people. And you know, when I have play dates with friends and we're talking, everything is fine. And I've realized that those count as reach outs too. And I don't have to feel bad that, you know, I'm not sending 20 Facebook messages via text. Sometimes, sometimes I have to play to my strengths and I have to allow people to hear the excitement in my voice. And I've been getting a lot more positive responses and people, you know, actually, you know, interested in continuing the conversation with me. So that's been a huge win for me because I felt like such a failure when I would send all these messages and I would get no responses back. And also just realizing, you know, sometimes people are busy and I need to send a second message so that they see my first one. But that's been my biggest win lately.
Yeah, that's a good example, Erin. And you know, also, y'all, I think that it helps because listen, if you send that voicemail, okay, they ain't gonna want to ignore you. They're gonna be like, what's she saying? I've highlighted over her thing and I can read it. I don't want to talk to her right now, but if she's sending me a voicemail, it's gonna show I read it because I want to know what she's saying. So I think there's definitely power in voicemails, and you can just get, you know, a connection to people. Tova, tricky. It's true. I mean, Fallon might have tricked. Y'all are funny. I'm gonna blame it on Fallon. It might have been Fallon that said that. Fallon.
I like to be tricky.
What do you got to say, girl?
I just said I like to be tricky. I like to sneak those things in there, and if I can manipulate people to do what I want them to do without them knowing, I guess I'll do it. Ooh, this works to get them to read it.
It's true. This call's getting juicy now, y'all. But it's good. It works. And I've had people that like come back and are like, oh my gosh, I didn't know. I didn't see all these other messages you sent. How are you and the family? Okay. So, all right.
Something that I've been doing is, and it's okay, so like eventually I do want to be a morning person and like wake up really early. But in this season, like this is something I literally told myself, especially from this book, how he says you can't do everything, you got to start small. And I was like causing myself so much anxiety because I was like, okay, I got to go to bed early so I can get up early. And naturally, I'm a night owl. I love to do things at night. Like it drives my husband insane because I could literally, you know, like clean something or grab the vacuum or I don't know. I'm just very motivated at night. So in this season, I was like, okay, this is causing me anxiety to be like, okay, book club's over or whatever's over. I got to go get in bed, hurry up, because then I got to get up early. And so for me, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to work on that right now. Like I'm going to get my stuff done, which I really enjoy. And not that I'm like staying up crazy late, but like I don't know. It was so in this season, I'm like, you know what? This is not my thing I'm working on right now. I'm going to get my stuff done. That's what counts. And if that means after the kids are put to bed and after the call, I can sit down and have peace and quiet while I finish my reach outs or finish messages or set up an event or do something, I was like, I'm okay with that. So that is something that I was thinking about for me personally, because it really is a goal of mine to like get up early, get all my stuff done, and then go to bed earlier. But yeah, it was causing a lot of anxiety.
It does. And I think you have to have wisdom and when to work with your strengths, which, you know, you're working with yourself right now, which is kind of a way of having grace on yourself, like not trying to change who you are, but focusing right now. I just need to get the work done. We'll deal with the rest later. And that was me for the majority of my business. I was just in full throttle mode and I didn't really think about the bad or whatever kind of habits I was creating. But you can become a morning person if you are a night owl. I don't know how it happened to me. Maybe Natalie Dolan knows how it happened to her, but it just happened to me. I think I just got so exhausted. I started going to bed early. And then one day I woke up and I wasn't exhausted and I started waking up early. So it just kind of reset everything. So it can happen. You got to get super tired. So you want to go to bed at night. And then when 7 or 6 comes around, you're ready to get up because you've already slept long enough. But now's not the time. You've got enough going on. I work with.
Yeah, I mean, it is my goal for real. I heard that like the book, The Miracle Morning or something's like great. I don't know, but I do feel like the most successful people are morning people. And so, yeah, kind of what you said too. I was like, you know what? I got to just work. Like I'm starting smaller things now that I'm holding myself accountable and I really want to like rank up. So I was like, in this season of my life, like we're going to let that one slide and I got to work with what's happening. But yeah, I really want to. That is a goal for sure.
I've tried to be a morning person so many times. Natalie's going to give us some advice. I see her in meeting and Fallon's yelled at me for it because it never ends well for me. Like it pisses me off though, because I'm like, I want to be like, I do so well when I wake up and I get my stuff done. But then it's like, I have to wake up pretty early. So I know for sure that nobody will be awake. Like, cause then I just get anxious. I'm like, is a kid going to wake up and ruin my time? Like, not that they've ruined my time, but you know how it is. Like if you're up early, it's for a reason and it's not to be with your kids. So yeah, stressful times.
I feel
Natalie,
like I'm a night. Go ahead.
Hi.
Who was talking?
I was just saying, Natalie, tell us your,
Oh yeah. Yeah, because I
advice.
feel like I'm a night owl and a morning person, especially with these 2 puppies. And it just probably isn't good.
Well, you just got to have I was going to say Kylie, we're about to read the the Shopping for Time book. And apparently it talks about how waking up early is like almost like a biblical principle and how much it talks about. I've been reading Proverbs and it literally talks about waking up early. And there's just like so much wisdom in waking up early and not starting your day off in reactivity, but you just have to have a strong enough why. You just have to really want and like be really clear on why you're waking up early. And it's because you have to like think through it fully because you're going to have so much more. Your day is going to be so much better if you don't start off in reactivity. You're going to get the quiet time, the prayer time, the Bible time to fill your cup up, and you're going to become addicted to it because it makes your whole life so much better. And so when I wake up now, I'm like literally happy to be awake. And my entire life, I would wake up feeling sad. Every time I woke up, I would feel sad. And now in my life, I'm like, I can't even believe that I feel happy in the morning. And I don't know what it is, but I think it just boils down to clarity and having a strong why.
If you want to know the why behind what she just said, listen to Huberman's podcast. He has a 3-hour sleep podcast where he talks all about the biochemistry of sleep and why waking up and what happens to your dopamine. And if you get sun exposure in the first like 30 minutes, you're awake, it resets your dopamine cycles, which resets your serotonin. So if you want to know all that, if that'll help you get up, it helps me get up early. I'm like, my eyes open and I'm literally thinking of the science. I'm like, I have to do it. That's a good one to listen to.
I can't wake up when it's still dark out. So when the time change happens, that's when it throws me for a loop.
Have you
So
seen
we're
those
gonna start
lights?
talking about sleep. Someone help me.
Those
What's-
loom lights? Have you seen them? No, they're like $50, $30 on Amazon.
Ordering.
They literally, it has to be like 10,000 looms or 15,000 looms, but the 20 minutes of exposure in the morning will simulate natural sunlight and kick off your dopamine. So for people that like live in Alaska or England or things that are overcast and have seasonal depression, that's what they recommend as like first line treatment, and they're cheap. And they said it helps ADHD kids. So I'm gonna buy one, and my little boy and I are just gonna sit next to each other and eat breakfast with our light.
I've seen those sunrise like alarm clocks that slowly get brighter by your head. Do those not work?
That's not what this is. It has to be like over 10,000 looms, and
It's
it looks
those
like a
lights I
makeup
bought, though.
mirror. What, Tiffany?
I said, it's those lights I bought when we were going to Alaska that everybody said we needed. And I
Yeah,
like
no-
told Courtney and Fallon, y'all need this. It's really great. They're like, what do we need this for?
So you have to turn the light on yourself?
It's a like a makeup mirror. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
It's just like a little makeup mirror, maybe 12 inches, 10 inches, and it's on a stand, and you turn it on, and it's just close to you when you eat breakfast, when you do your devotions, when you do your makeup. They said it doesn't matter. It just has to be close to you for like 20 minutes.
Awesome. And there is one more time change, y'all,
Mhm.
for those who didn't know it. It changes in the fall and then it doesn't change again, but that's the time we're sticking with, is whatever change happens in the
Oh, has
fall.
like the United States officially as a whole stopped time change? This is how out of loop I am. Did
Yeah,
you know
how-
that now?
Some people are looking so confused. How did y'all miss this? Like, it's a
Yes.
big deal.
I thought it was this year. I thought it was, this was the last one.
They
I
knew-
did too, but then I
2023.
researched it because I had to know, and there's one more time change this fall, and then that is the time
Mhm.
we're sticking.
So it's gonna be dark. We're changing it to the darker.
I
No,
know. Are we changing it to the bad one? That's what I want. That's
Yeah.
what I'm
Fall
saying,
back.
like,
you'll have it change this fall where you go like what, an hour behind. And
You
then in the
made it.
spring, when it goes an hour forward, it'll never change again in our entire lives.
Okay.
I'm gonna find out the official reg and I'll drop it in our group.
I just don't want it to be the darker one. I
I
want
think
it
it's
to
the
be.
dark one. Fall's
Yeah.
gonna feel extra dark.
No, they're not keeping it with the hour back. They're gonna have you spring forward again, and then you're staying in spring forward.
Okay, that's
So
good
that's-
news then. That's
and
good news.
I know that because I don't want that. I like falling back. I feel amazing when it's darker. This is why I was made for Alaska. My husband calls me his dark princess, y'all. Seriously. Oh my gosh, I have problems. I have mental problems.
Well, there's so much research on like depression levels and how it affects most
I ain't
people,
depressed.
and productivity goes down and suicide goes up. And so it's like, no, that was the whole reason why.
Yeah.
But I feel like we could definitely skip falling back and just keep things the same. But that's just me.
Yeah. Well,
Did they change it? It
that's
says the goal is making it permanent starting November of 2023.
yeah. So the way I read it was November 2023. It's permanent because it's not gonna fall back again anymore. It's just staying in that spring forward. And I only know that because I argued with Greg and I was mad about this. I have serious issues. Okay, just love me, y'all. And that's why I'm like, I hate this. But so I swear, I mean, if it's the other way, y'all just gotta love me. But if it's the other way around, I don't know, somebody save me. But I can't imagine, the whole country would be so upset. So I'm pretty sure we're staying in that spring forward.
Someone let us know. This is a long book club. I might just end it for Tiffany. 'cause
Yes.
She'll keep us here all night, but for
Yes,
real, we
don't
need to
ever
know
let
the
Tiff lead
answer.
another book club. She likes to talk. All right, y'all. It was a pleasure tonight, and we'll see you next week for the final chapters. Good night.